All right, folks, welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm joined with Alpha Warrior once again. And man, oh man, as 2026 kicked off to be a big year so far and more to come. More to come. Alpha, thank you so much for joining me, man. It's always an awesome conversation when you're here. Very stimulating type of conversation when I have you on. So thanks for joining me, man.
Absolutely happy to be here, man. We thought 2025 was something.
Well, this has got to be the year of action, right? I mean, this is it. I mean, everything's on the offense, right? So right now, we know that Trump has hinted, and I'm just going to go ahead and share this. Trump has hinted now that he's going to strike within Mexico. And hey, I take him. I think this is going to happen. You and I both talked about this many times on my show. We both have stated that Mexico's next. Trump suggests U.S. military will hit cartels on land in Mexico. Now this is mainstream. So another problem is 𝗬𝗂𝗂𝗠𝗲, or not so much of a problem. I've said many times that she's not going to make it till the end of her term. I know you said the same thing, but it seems to me like they're on the hit list, right?
Absolutely. We called this out months ago. We actually said Trump will hit Venezuela first and then look to Mexico. Like we knew that was going to happen. And part of the reason we knew that was going to happen because of the position 𝗬𝗂𝗂𝗠𝗲 took. And we know that the cartels, that pathway of narcotics and human trafficking comes through our southern border. And so he is choking them out. And all this goes back to very early on, Nino. One of the first things Trump did right out of the gate, he designated the cartels as foreign terrorists. So that right there told you, okay, he's doing that because he wants to be able to utilize, at the time, the Department of Defense, now that, rebranded as the Department of War. The next big move he made that a lot of people have forgotten about was then he took back control of the Panama Canal. And so right between those two things, me and Josh had already said, okay, he's setting up the chessboard for a military conflict. That's exactly what I thought. What it's all about.
Well, he was setting up a chessboard for a military conflict when he started sending all the military to the border. I mean, you should see the artillery that they're putting up on the border here. I mean, I'm here, right? So I was like, this is not to stop immigration, man. This is war, because being here, and I'm going to start going. And I invite you and Josh to come on down to the border if you ever want to come. We'll go film down here, and I'll take you everywhere. So you can, and there's places that I used to just be able to roam freely on. Now, dude, I go down there, they stop me with machine guns and Humvees. It's crazy. And I understand, yeah, this is to stop some immigration, but some of the artillery that I see here is not for that. It's for the offense, like getting ready to go to war with you, specifically the cartels. And I got a feeling, and I know this is going to be ground zero when this kicks off right here. Ciudad Juarez, El Paso, Texas is going to be ground zero, because I'm going to go down there and start showing my audience the stuff that I'm seeing pulling up. Bro, this is not to stop immigration. Why are they keep bringing in tanks? Why do they keep bringing in Humvees? Why do they keep bringing in these? I've even seen surface to air missiles. This is not for immigration, right?
Here's the thing, people watch because of movies. What have movies always presented the weak point or the choke point for the U.S.? They've never showed it at our southern border. They've never showed it as our northern border. They always show the East Coast.
Right.
East Coast. And if that's what they're telling you, then that's not the way they're going to attack.
Right.
If you were going to do a strategic attack on the U.S., you would do the southern border and you would do the California coast. Why? Because the California coast has nuclear facilities, and because you have Camp Pendleton, which I think is the largest or second largest Marine Corps base that's there. You would want to have that kind of effect, especially with all the ports and all the ships. And Trump knows that. And
dude, do we know how protected the northern border is? I know Canada has it pretty much unlocked for us going there, but do we know how much unlock it is coming into the United States? I mean, it can't, obviously the southern border is going to be way more unlocked, but do we know how protected the Canada border is?
I don't
hear anything about it, right?
Yeah, I don't know of anything formal, but some of the stuff from people that live in the area is that there's a lot of like military air presence, helicopters and things like that. So, but I don't know, man. But if because the Chinese put a lot of personnel, I would argue troops at our northwest border. And if Trump isn't countering that with a large presence, then I would imagine he has eyes on. So,
here in on the southern border, I've actually timed the helicopters, so I know the immigrants are doing the same thing. But like, I know when they pass it's every hour on the hour, basically, right here on the Santa Teresa area side. I know their routines, right? But at night, I go walking up in the mountains, and the helicopters are turned off, the lights are off, and they're flying, and I can hear them everywhere, but I can't really gauge where they're at. It's very confusing. But I've counted 4 to 5. I think there was 5, but I know for sure 4 flying at night, but with no lights on at all. And I've even seen drones in the sky. I know they're drones. So the surveillance here in El Paso is pretty heavy, and it's mainly I see a lot at night. So I mean, I know that's to stop immigration, but I also think there's something else formulating right now.
Some of the equipment that our guys have there is not just for immigration.
Right.
You're talking about equipment that is used because if something, because here's the thing, the cartels, they don't have these bandoliers like they show in the movies. These guys are equipped just like SWAT teams. And so our military has to make sure that they have the equipment and the type of personnel to address that. And they do. And here's something that I can say. We have undercover agents in the areas, the AOs of the cartel. And so the moves they're making, I'm pretty sure, I wouldn't say pretty sure, I'm highly confident that Trump and 𝗂𝗃 and those guys, especially General Kane, they're well aware of what's coming.
Folks, with that being said, stop your weight loss injections. We've all seen the headlines about Ozempic and similar miracle weight loss shots, but a major 2025 analysis just revealed that people who stop taking these injections regain an average of 60% of their weight back within just 1 year. Most of that gain is pure fat, and the muscle loss during the treatment stays gone, leaving you with a crashed metabolism and a body that's basically older than when you started. This is why I take something that's way better called GLP-1, folks, and I'm obsessed with the results I'm seeing in the mirror. Yeah, I stand in front of the mirror naked sometimes, and I look and I say, I can lose a little bit there or here. Yeah. It does. I don't use needles to override my system. I use plant-based clinical study ingredients like 𝗵𝗶𝗱𝗲 to help my body naturally boost its own hunger-controlling signals. I get the same fullness and less cravings, but without the prescription, scary side effects, or metabolic rebound. The magical supplement supports my weight management goals while protecting my muscles, helping me keep the weight off for good. To celebrate the new year, it currently has a 50% off promotion for GLP-1. Elevate only at Trim with Nino, plus every order for a limited time comes with a free 60-day satisfaction guarantee and free express shipping with subscriptions. Once again, that's Trim with Nino. Get it, folks. Trust me, you won't be sorry. Look good naked in front of the mirror again.
Hell yeah, baby. Hell yeah.
GLP-1, Trim with Nino. Get on it. So we have also a kind of problem arising in Venezuela right now. Yeah. 𝗬𝗪cie Rodriguez. She's no better than Maduro. So it's going to be very interesting to see how and I'm going to go ahead and show this X post that you sent me. But it's very interesting to see how Trump's going to deal with this, because 𝗬𝗪cie is just a placeholder for Maduro. In fact, some people say she's worse than Maduro. What's your outlook on this?
So one, she's an absolute concern. Yeah. And two, you have, I think it was yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, and I think it was yesterday, the release of the Venezuelan prisoners. And then you had Trump's administration saying, hey, it looks like they're trying, they're trying to mean well political prisoners. to be clear on that. She wants to interfere with things that are still taking place there.
Right, specifically with the midterms coming up and 2028. She's on a time crunch, from what I'm hearing from people inside, saying she's a problem. We've got to get rid of her, but she's on her way to Washington, D.C., correct?
So the word that came out less than 15, 20 minutes ago was that she's going to be catching a flight to go meet with President Trump to have a conversation. Now, we will see. I haven't heard any formal White House or Trump accounts put that, but some reliable people have reported on it. People that have been pretty consistent. But here's the thing: right out of the gate, what does she say? That the apprehension of Nicolas Maduro was wrong. That Trump shouldn't have done it. And why was she doing that? Because there was panic amongst the deep state assets that were right there in Venezuela. And she was trying to show, hey, listen, everybody, relax. I can confront Trump. I got this.
I think he apprehends her, man. I think that's the best way. Why play with her? You can't play with these people. They're impossible to work with. It's like trying to make a viper your pet snake. It's not going to work. You got to take them out.
I think that, so yes, apprehending her while she's over here, is the easiest way, because there's no military strikes that you got to worry about.
Well, Trump just called off the second wave. He just called off the second wave of strikes, which tells me maybe 𝗬𝗪cie cut a deal, and she's going to maybe turn herself in.
Or one of the things that possibly can happen is, we know Trump likes to leverage people, and in that meeting, he's probably going to show her or provide her information that's going to show, listen, this is what awaits you. This is exactly what you're going to do when you go back. And whatever, resistance she identifies, he's going to be like, we'll deal with it. I think if he doesn't apprehend her, it's because he is going to take control of her.
The fact that she's flying to Washington, D.C. is huge, and that takes a lot of trust. I mean, for her to think, okay, I'm not going to be arrested, I don't see. I'll be quite honest.
Here's the thing:
why you wouldn't?
Is it trust, or did he tell her, you're going to come over here, and that's the only way I'm not going to do these strikes,
right?
Or you're going to stay there. I'm going to do these strikes, and I'm going to come snatch you up next,
right? And it doesn't matter if her specifically. It doesn't matter if she's dead or alive. Maduro was important to take alive. 𝗬𝗪cie Rodriguez, it doesn't matter. We could just take her out. And I think that was what the ultimatum that was given. Look, come to Washington, D.C., talk to me, or all right, strikes happen again. And we don't care. We don't care if you make this. You're not our interest. Maduro was our interest. We already got the guy. We got the key. But it don't matter if you're dead or alive. We'll just strike you.
Maduro had witness value. She has no value.
Nothing.
She's
exactly.
Yeah, she's a deep state asset. She's a deep state bully. She's replaceable. Trump knows she's replaceable, and I'm sure Trump told her, you're replaceable.
So we got the fleet still in the Caribbean. We're there already. I don't see any chance of us saying, okay, we're going to pull back now. Time to go home. Let's deal with it. Let's deal with all the problems we have here in domestically. We keep the fleet there. We go after 𝗬𝗪cie Rodriguez. We go after Colombia. We go after Cuba. We go after Mexico. We're already there. You agree?
I agree.
So
here, the presence of the Navy fleet kind of has to tee us off to something, because Trump has allies in South America where he could have strategically positioned Marines, if he wanted to, and I'm sure he probably has covertly, where that country hasn't said nothing, we haven't said nothing, but the fact that he's using our fleet and the presence they have, there's one major reason for that. And that's the existential threat that China represents. And he knows that they got subs there. And you've had Josh on here a number of times to talk about those old Russian subs that we believe
the rogue ones.
The rogue ones that are controlled by the CCP, they're the old diesel style. And that's a concern. Because listen, they have a false flag they're waiting to do. They're waiting for it. And if Trump's making these moves, and that means up until this point, he knows that they have the control. But if he's not removing the military, that means they also haven't removed the issue.
This could be the Cuban Missile style type crisis 2.0 that Juan talks about. This would, to me, would add up to be that. I mean, I would imagine, you've already had China make a threat to the United States saying, hey, release Maduro and give back the oil. And Russia's even concerned now that we've intercepted an oil tanker, right? So
another one this morning. Trump's beyond doubling down. That he's tripled, quadrupled. Every time they tell him to stop, he escalates.
Yeah. So that, to me, that could push us into some kind of scenario, because I don't know if you saw my morning show today, I talked about the United States Postal Service actually sending out warning letters. Did you see this? Yeah. United States Postal Service sends alarming letter out to all employees and contractors. Letter signals that an impending crisis of civil unrest or an epidemic could be imminent. What do they know that you don't? Just days into 2026, USPS is issuing memos reminding workers to carry out essential service letters and IDs to bypass travel restrictions during emergencies like epidemics, hurricanes, or civil unrest. Government prepping while we're in the dark, and then the doomsday plane is up and flying right now. The nuclear war commander bunker built to keep the U.S. government running if everything collapses was quietly spotted taxiing and taking off from Los Angeles International Airport Thursday night. Says here that it does it seem normal for the end of the world plane to be quietly moving overnight for the first time in its 51-year flying history? I mean, we're obviously preparing for something. I mean, this has got to be the year.
Did you see the news last night about Russia?
What happened? Tell me.
They started. Let me pull up the numbers for you real quick. I have it right in the tab. 36 missiles, 242 drones, 4 civilians killed in Russia's mass bombings in Ukraine. NATO border rattled. This was about 8 hours. This was about 8 hours ago. I think it was like Kiev, Odessa. And here's the thing: Josh said that Putin was going to move on Odessa.
They have to, but and then see that this is where it's getting crazy, because I think the only way in my mind, the only way this war ends is the capture of 𝗬𝗏𝗏 or completely taking out Ukraine. I mean, seriously, that's the only way. 𝗬𝗏𝗏 is never going to agree to any kind of peace deal. Neither will Russia at this point. So to me, the only way this ends, and 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 said this on my program. Now everybody's waiting to see if it's true or not. I can't vouch for it, but January 15th, the war has to end, right? So 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 has a pretty good credentials and pedigree, right? His great grandfather was the Russian first Soviet Union president, started the KGB, his uncle. So he has sources and contacts. He says January 15th, it all ends. I don't see how that's even possible right now with the escalation. What's your thoughts on it?
It's it's not going to end on the 15th. I actually think the 14th or the 15th things are going to escalate. But going off the precedents, Trump has 60 days and then Congress has to declare war. If we're going off law, right? And I know that I think they're about to pass, so they did just pass to kind of reverse that precedent, which I called a while back because Trump actually wants them to do that. But, we're still in the ballpark of, I would say another 45, days, that depending on when you consider if the Maduro's the actual official strike, well, then no, we still got, 2 months. And then after that, he got 30 days to remove troops, but we don't even have troops there. And you don't have to remove troops in the international waters or anything like that. So that final 30 days is irrelevant. But if you just look at the 60 days, he's still well within that window. Now, if he does say, okay, Congress didn't authorize war with Venezuela, so we're done with that, all he has to do is accomplish what he wants. He's already put Mexico on his side, so then he can go and he starts with Mexico. That's a whole new clock. That's a whole new battle. And then the same thing, once he's done with Mexico, and then he can move to Colombia.
But Rodriguez is a problem. So this is going to be interesting to see how this gets handled. She's got to be distracted. She's got to be out of there. She's got to play ball with Trump.
If she goes to this meeting, it's an if, and she leaves that meeting, that means Trump absolutely has her on puppet strings.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
Well, the fact that she's going tells me he has her on puppet strings. Well, the fact that she's even going to this meeting, I mean,
because here's the thing: if she gets back and she doesn't do what the deep state wants her to do, don't be shocked if you see her assassinated by one of her people over there. One of the cartels or something like that.
And that's why it's so precarious for 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 right now, because she was obviously installed by the cartels. When Trump declares war on the cartels, he's essentially declaring war on all of Mexico, because Mexico is controlled by the cartels. Nobody else controls Mexico. So when he says, hey, we're going to war with the cartels, that means Mexico. It's going to be I'm going to go and check and see the border here and see if they're starting to get troop buildup as this escalates. I bet you anything it's going to start kicking off.
Well, I'm here in SoCal, and so we see a lot of stuff that starts flying over towards Yuma.
Yeah, well, the whole border, obviously, but
So, something to keep an eye on too is, with Mexico. Well, listen, look at the politicians that already have gone named through a whistleblower coming out of Venezuela. Why do you think the politicians are in a panic?
Yeah.
Now,
Big panic.
A big panic. So
Yeah.
the politicians that know that they're getting paid through the Colombia pipelines, they don't want they don't want us having an issue with Colombia. The politicians that are getting paid through Mexico, which I think would be the vast majority of them because of what we know, especially through Maricopa, this is going to bring the conversation surrounding Maricopa County and the elections over there back into the spotlight. Because we know how much of them were getting paid. This goes back into the mortgage fraud with Sean Taylor and all that.
Yep.
And so this is what they're stressed out about, because every time that Trump does an attack, we learn intelligence on these politicians. Now, is all of this just theater? So, people understand and buy off on the idea of how we got the intelligence because we already have it in pocket. I mean, who knows? That I'm open to different people's interpretation on that. But
So
we're getting the intel.
So you would agree with me that if we are going to strike Mexico, this is going to happen pretty soon?
Oh, if we're going to strike Mexico, it's less than 4 months.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say probably even less than 2 months.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to start heading down there to the border right now, and like maybe even today, and see if I spot anything developing. Because, yeah, if he's already making those threats, that means the plans are already in order to do so, right? I mean, it's game on.
He said. So what's interesting is Trump is deploying the tactic in South America that I said about 2 years ago. If Israel really wanted to stop Hamas, this is how they would deploy their forces. They would divide it into 3. They would divide Palestine into 3. You would have a faction of the IDF at northern Gaza. You would have a faction of the IDF along the Egypt border and Gaza. And then right down the middle, you would have 2 factions of the IDF. One that's going to work north, one that's going to work south. And you literally decouple their ability, their logistics. And so what do you see Trump doing? He just put into 3 parts. We have military at the southern border of the U.S., right? We took over Panama, so there's the middle part. And then he just took over control of Venezuela, so to speak. There's the bottom part. So he's isolated Mexico away from South America. So any reinforcements they're going to get from the cartels over there is not going to happen.
So Mexico could be next, and then Colombia and Cuba, right? So, or I mean, not Cuba, not Colombia, Cuba, Mexico. Mexico could be the next in line then.
I actually think that Mexico, and this is where me and Josh differ. Josh believes that it's going to be Colombia. I said it was going to be Mexico. I still think it's going to be Mexico, and it's for that reason.
I think I agree with you. I think it's going to be Mexico, and then Colombia, and then Cuba will be last.
Because once you take control of Mexico by taking away the ability for the cartels out of Mexico to attack the U.S., now look at all that land that's now a buffer between anything that is a threat to us in South America. If he goes after Colombia or any different countries that are out there first, well, they can advance troops into Mexico. They're still, they got cartels that are there. So by Trump hitting Venezuela, he hit the resource, he hit the money pipeline, because Colombia and all them use Venezuela to traffic a lot of this money, to traffic a lot of the arms. A lot of that runs, even Maduro came out and he says, oh, the cocaine here is that's coming from Colombia. And that's a true statement, but he still was allowing that stuff to work through. So what did Trump do? He took out the hub of Venezuela. That's going to affect their logistics and their ability to launder money. Next move would take out, like he said, strategic land strikes on cartels or cartel adjacent properties in Mexico. All of a sudden now
that means right here in Juarez, bro.
Yes, it does.
Holy cow, right here.
You know where else? Tijuana.
Shit.
That means
Tijuana, Juarez. So damn, does that mean like I'm gonna have planes flying over El Paso to drop or drones?
Here's, I have a couple of buddies that are out there in the San Diego area, and they're like, well, they're not, positioning any troops, along the Tijuana border. I go, bro, Camp Pendleton's right there. They don't have to. They're gonna fly right out of Camp Pendleton. Camp Pendleton's literally right there in Oceanside. They already got a forward observation.
Holy cow, dude! That would be insane to witness.
Look at you have Camp Pendleton. Camp Pendleton is going to be the staging ground for the attack against the cartels at the southern border with California. You have Yuma. That's going to be the operating base for the cartels that are right there on the southern border of Arizona and New Mexico. And then in El Paso, that you all along the different parts of Texas, you're going to have it. This goes back to, remember, this goes back to Uvalde.
Yeah.
And a lot of the conversation that was there, who allegedly, who were some of the students at the Uvalde school belonged to? Border Patrol. This conflict and the cartels trying to influence border operations goes all the way back.
Damn, that means El Paso's going to get hot too, man.
The entire southern border is going to be hot. And the thing about it that my biggest concern is how much of drone technology from the bad guys are we going to see?
Yeah, like I told you, I see them at night. I see them right at dusk. I see that. Well, I see the helicopters blacked out. I see drones. Like, they really picks up at night. And now that Trump's making these threats, I'm gonna get my ass down there and go to the border, bro. I'm gonna start filming some stuff and see what I can get. Folks, we're gonna go to Nino'sCorner.tv, finish this conversation there, and I want to get your outlook. I want to get your perspective on the Renee Nicole Good that was shot. I want to get your law enforcement perspective on it. I have mine. Let's see if we do a little debate over it on Nino'sCorner.tv. Alpha, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, see you guys in a minute.